Welcome to Can I Nose Time, the podcast celebrating scent detection for fun. Join us for insights into building a connection in your team, tips for competency and success in competition, and to keep up to date with recent and upcoming scent work events here in New South Wales and around Australia. Hi, Danielle.
Hello.
It has been a while since we've recorded a podcast.
I actually feel like we say that at the beginning of most of our podcasts.
Correct.
But it has been a while. I think our last one was in September, which is
Wow.
a while back.
That's actually a while. Yeah. When we were doing one a month there for a while. And I think we did have a lot going on September, October, November, just wrapping up sort of classes and trial season. And it was a pretty chaotic end of year, really, wasn't it?
It was. There was a lot going on, a lot of trials, some workshops, lots
Man
of stuff
trailing.
with our own dogs. Yep, man trailing.
Started that up. Yeah, there was heaps. And it looks like it's just going to get busier and busier from here.
Indeed. There is a lot to look forward to this year.
There is. So I guess we were talking about doing a little bit of a reflection on 2024 with Nosework and our sort of personal goals and, just how the year went.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty funny because the beginning of 2024 actually feels like a really long time ago because a lot happened.
Yeah, really does.
Yeah, because a year ago, we both had these little puppies in our house.
Yeah, and Nettle, your other working cocker, was only 12 months old.
Yep, she was only 12 months old. She had barely started trialing this time last year.
Mm.
And then, I mean, she finished off this year heading up to Queensland to attempt a Nosework 3, which is crazy. That was not on my goal for her for 2024.
Yeah, and even Sarah at that stage, she had only done one Nosework 3.
Yep.
And I had CO'd and a few of that they did up in Queensland, but then we put on our own Nosework 3s down here in New South Wales.
Yep.
Which was really good. So there's been a few. And she's entered, I think she's entered 3 Nosework 3s, and she's got a vehicle element, NW3 element title, which is really exciting for her.
Yep.
Well, more exciting for me. I don't think she really cares. But yeah, it's been a really interesting and really good experience sort of getting Nosework 3s off the ground in Queensland and in New South Wales.
Yeah, I think for people who want to know what's going to be happening with Nosework 3s in New South Wales this year, my tip is that there's going to be more of them. There's going to be more of them.
There sure is. And while we haven't put through the applications to ACSW as yet, I'll put the tentative dates on the Canine Nose Time website for upcoming trials that Canine Nose Time will be hosting for ACSW. So if you want to check some of those out, just keep in mind that they're currently tentative, but we have locked in some dates for everyone to plan around. So that's just an aside.
Yep. Lots, like I said, there's going to be a lot of, like, if we thought last year was crazy, I feel like this year is going to be crazier, which is fun.
Absolutely. Which is why I think it's so important to, one, do some reflection, but also do a little bit of planning for the year ahead.
Yep.
So I guess I listened back to our podcast that we did in January last year, which was basically on goal setting.
Yep.
And I just had a little listen before just to see, where I was at with the goals that I'd set. And because Flair was still a puppy, he was only 13 or 14 weeks old. One of my main goals was handling for him, just to become a better handler. And that wasn't just nose work, but also his toy reward, because I had, visions of making sure that we could play tug, we could play fetch, food would be important. And so that was really cool to listen to, because I feel like that is something that he's really he's really motivated by all three of those things.
Yep.
He's motivated by just about everything, but we are getting there with our toy reward. I would have liked to be a little bit further along with the toy reward so that I can incorporate it more into his nose work. But he's super food driven and tug and fetch. So, I'm really happy with how he's going with that.
I actually think you're pretty lucky. I think he is really great. And I think it is, from what I've seen, something that you've really progressed this year with him.
There was a lot of progression to be done.
Yeah.
We had a lot of room for movement.
Yeah. It's pretty funny, actually, because I was just submitting my CNWI videos, and I actually included a little bit of flair in one of my videos. But it was from a while, like 6 months ago, maybe. It was when we introed him to vehicles on primary. And there was some funny toy play stuff happening in that video. And I was like, oh wow, at least he's gotten a lot better since.
You should send me that video. Then I'll really feel like I've progressed, because I feel like we could be doing heaps better.
No, there's definitely been progression.
Progress is progress, right? Doesn't matter how slow it is, as long as you're progressing.
Yep. That's honestly one of my mantras. I'm just like, well, this isn't what I thought it would look like, but it's better than it was.
Yes. Yeah. That I can definitely tick off. I'm definitely better at it than I was 12 months ago.
Yep.
So I'm gonna call that a win.
Yep.
The other things I had as sort of goals for 2024 was more focused training with each of my dogs and each of the dogs that I was competing with or just training with. And I think we actually did set aside a day a week just to train our own dogs, which is something we hadn't done before. And, it was a bit hit and miss, of course, because when you're trying to fit it in, it's not always as intentional as you set it out to be. But I do think, once again, progress is progress.
Yeah, I think that it's also hard when there are multiple dogs and they're all at different stages of training. The thing is, you're not going to be perfect.
No.
I feel like with my own dogs, probably Pippin got the short end of the straw this year because he's the oldest. So you kind of fall into a bit of a trap of going, oh, he doesn't need as much skill building. So then he gets a little bit less, which is unfair, I think.
Yeah, I feel a bit the same with Syrah and Ranger, got left a little bit behind. I didn't do as much with them as I had wanted to. And part of it, is the excuse that she's 14 in a month and a half.
Yep.
And, travel isn't as easy. The heat is really challenging for her now.
Yep.
She still loves nose work, but, all of those other things, just listening to what I was saying 12 months ago, I was still talking about building skills with her.
Yep.
And now that's she's sort of aged out of that a little bit. Yeah. So it's really just more about making sure she has some fulfilling enjoyment.
Yep.
Which I think that will be definitely on my goals for this year, which I think we're going to do goal setting in the next podcast, aren't we?
Okay, yes. We'll keep this to reflecting on
so
the goals we hit or missed.
Yeah. I think I did okay with Buddy, actually. That's my mum's dog. He hadn't entered anything last year, so he's now, he's got a couple of level 1 element titles. He's entered a Nosework 1. I feel like he actually had some good experiences over the year.
Yep.
And my other goal that I had there was record keeping.
Yep.
I don't feel like I fulfilled that one as well as I could have. So that'll be on the...
What was in your head with record keeping? Like, what did you envisage it would look like?
I think I really wanted to see progress, like to visually see progress. So keeping videos, keeping training records of what I had worked on with each of the dogs.
Yep.
And which we talk about it even in the podcast about the skills you need for before you enter a particular trial and before you throw your dog into a strange environment and all of these things that we talk about in the podcast. And I guess ideally I would have liked to have that written down and see a progression that, yes, I have exposed my dog to this, that, and the other in a training scenario first before I put them in a trial. I know that I probably have, but I really would have liked that visual sort of verification, I guess.
Yep.
And not just video. Like, I want to make sure that I'm consciously keeping better records. I video just about everything. We're really good at videoing our training.
Yep.
And I'm moderately good at going back and rewatching those videos. But yeah, so I think that's something that I didn't quite fulfill as much as I
think if you do follow through with that, it really makes you more intentional with what you do in training.
Yes.
Which is what is most important, I think.
Yes. And that was something we were talking about last year as well, is that balancing being really intentional with your training over or alongside of just ticking the box with training, and also just keeping, throwing out some hides to have some fun with your dogs.
Yes. Because that's also important. You still got to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I actually have found my notes from my goals.
Oh, good.
Which is very exciting because I didn't have time to listen to the podcast, but I found my notes. So one of my goals was to really work on my handling skills. I needed to figure out how to balance speedy nettle with slow Rory and adjusting my handling style accordingly. So how did I go with that? I feel like I'm in a good place with Rory in terms of his handling. I was really, because back at the beginning of the year, I hadn't done a Nosework 3 with him, and now we've done 2 Nosework 3s. And I'm really happy that in both of those Nosework 3s, he only timed out of 1 search. So that's 12 searches, 12 Nosework 3 searches, and 11 of them we completed in the time, which is one of my biggest fears for him at the Nosework 3 level because he's so slow.
Yeah, but I think part of that, and we're going to hit on this in another podcast as well, was just how much more intentionally you cover a search area with him now.
Yes. Yep.
And I think which is handling, right?
It is.
For handling. So I think you can definitely say that you've accomplished. Well,
and it's funny though, because I think if you watched me searching with Rory, it may not look as intentional as others may think of as intentional searching. It's still super dog driven. I don't know. It's still very in the flow of whatever he gives me, I guess.
Yeah, but I think your awareness of how to get him into other areas and when he's been in an area for long enough.
I think that's one of the biggest things I built with him is trusting that when he's covered an area that he's searched it thoroughly.
Yep.
And we definitely don't go back and check things 1,000 times.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that my handling with Rory is progressing. Possibly not exactly where I want it to be, but it's progressed. Nettle, I think, is still a work in progress because of her speed. I think I've had some sort of mini aha moments with my leash handling with Nettle towards the end of the year, particularly when we were working with Jean Richardson. I was like, okay, I think I've got a bit of direction with where to go with her leash handling.
Good.
But she's still a work in progress as well because she's at that beginning her Nosework 3 and unknown searches. And I actually find I miss slow, thoughtful Rory in Nosework 3 with her because I don't have the confidence that she has covered an area because she often blows through it too quickly.
Yeah.
So that's my balancing act with her at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That will be really interesting to see what happens with and how she works over the next 12 months.
Yes.
Because there's nothing like, I love a fast dog. There's nothing wrong with a fast dog, but
absolutely.
You really do. Like, I was the CO up in Queensland for the trial that she ran in, and there was a 3-hide vehicle search, and it was so hot. It was madness. But one of the things I really noticed is that the faster dogs would literally run straight past one of the hides where the slower dogs would be able to catch it.
Yep.
And it was like repeated over and over and over again. And it might have just been how the odor was moving or what availability they had to be going, what speed they had to be going at to catch, this little bit of available odor.
Yep.
But it was very interesting that it was just a slower dog's search, not a fast dog search,
Yep.
and how to maybe train for that.
But I guess as well, it's one of those things in Nosework that's part of the joy of it, right? Like not every search suits every dog, and it's not meant to.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of searches suit the fast dogs.
Yep. And it's the same with height, right? Like you're going to get searches that are at your dog's height or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting. I've seen a lot, and even in the hide placement sometimes for Nosework 3, where some of the lower hides really don't suit taller dogs.
Yeah.
And that happened at the last Nosework 2 as well, which was interesting. They just, it's just that extra thing that you might have to work a little bit harder with your taller dog if you've got a low traveling odor.
Yep.
Which is, that was cool.
I do have something on my list with Rory that I have not done in terms of goal setting, which is get out and do searches in random places more.
Yes.
That's always something I wish I could do more of, but, time and motivation always work against me.
And it's tough with, reactive dogs. It's always going to be more challenging. You got to put that extra planning in.
Yep.
Yeah. What else? Is that everything on your list?
For Nettle, I just had like all of her trialing prep, right? Because she was beginning her trialing. So I had like Nosework 1 prep, which obviously she sailed through Nosework 1. She sailed through Nosework 2 a few weeks after Nosework 1.
Had the foundations. Though.
She did have the foundations. I wanted to particularly work on containers and vehicles with her. I do feel like I can tick off containers. Her containers are going amazingly. Vehicles are on the right track, but I think it's just a case of more exposure to more vehicle searches.
Yes, that's absolutely so. From an instructor point of view, as well, is something on my list is to have some more vehicle workshops, and so people can just have that exposure to, planning their vehicle searches a little bit better, because I feel like sometimes the dogs go into a trial, and when I've watched them in a trial, that the clarity isn't there like it is with the other elements.
Yeah, definitely.
And, that vehicle wrapping is such a essential skill.
Yep.
Or at least that expectation of finding odor on a vehicle is a really essential skill in foundations as well.
Yep.
And we did a day of workshops, didn't we? You did a Nosework 1 and I did a Nosework 2 and 3.
Yes.
And that
we should definitely do more of.
Yeah. That's definitely something we can do again, because I found that that was really beneficial to the teams that came and did that. Just watching how much they changed just after that sort of workshop. So we will put on.
The Nosework 1 teams that did that workshop did amazing. From the very first search to the little mini blind search we set up for them. It was really cool.
Yep. So we'll add that to the list because it is just hard to access, vehicles, especially if you're an instructor like we are. Our dogs are usually in the car with us, and it can be, a little bit more complicated.
Yes.
So,
but I think in terms of what I've learned from Nettle, she's done a lot of trials, but I haven't over trialed her. I don't think. Like she got her ANKC advanced title in the first half of the year, and then we didn't really do much more in ANKC for a while. And that was pretty intentional, because I think that the leap from advanced to excellent is bigger than people realize. And I didn't, for my training progression, I didn't want to expose her to food distractors in searches before I was like 110% confident that she can handle it. Yeah. So we've gone slow on the excellent, but she's getting there. She's almost ready. She's done a few excellent searches now, and we'll be getting into more of those this year. And I think I just don't want it to not be fun for her.
Yeah, I hope that people do realize that jump is quite large, because I feel like that's where we end up getting a lot of people coming to class as well, where they've sort of sailed through novice and they've passed advanced to a degree where they're allowed to enter excellent.
Yep.
And that's when things start to fall apart with foundations and expectations of the handlers as well.
Yep.
And I think that is so important that people realize that and that they train appropriately before they throw their dog into an excellent search.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff to deal with at the excellent level because you've got 3 hides in many searches. So there's really much more trickier odor puzzles in terms of converging and who knows what. And then you've got these distractors, intentional distractors that can be food and or toy. And you often see both. And often the food is quite high value. And so it's not a case of just, chucking food in a search in your training and
No,
and then that's you've trained your dog on distractors.
don't do that.
No, you really do need a training plan and to be really sure that you understand what your dog looks like when they're sniffing a distractor versus what they look like when they're at odor. And ideally, I want a dog that dismisses distractors on their own, not with help from me.
I know. And it only takes, and I've had this conversation with my students, it only takes a few false alerts in an excellent search for your dog to have a pretty clear picture of what the reinforcement sequence looks like at a distractor.
Yeah.
And they don't even have to get that reward. They've already been reinforced by you calling alert.
The second you say alert, that's enough of a little jolt to the dog's reinforcement system.
Yeah.
And it just creates a lot of confusion and lack of clarity. And once your dog lacks that clarity, then you're down this sort of spiral of you lose trust in your dog lose trust in you. This is definitely something we should have a podcast on down the track as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I because you call you get a false alert in that, and then the next search you go into, you hesitate at odor, and the dog's like, well, which one's correct?
Yep.
And the confusion, and I've seen it over and over again. Just it's if you're getting a false alert on a food distractor ever, back to the drawing board.
Yep. You don't keep entering until
keep entering.
You've done some work on that issue, and you have clarity about what's going on, not just your dog. Your dog can't have clarity until you have clarity.
Exactly. So yeah, it's my pet thing to talk about. Yeah, podcast on that one. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that Nettle, probably exceeded her goals, actually, looking back at what my goals were for 2024.
Yeah, she's still so young and she's flying through it.
And I guess we had one not great trial experience at the Nosework 3. It wasn't great in terms of the result, but and also it was just so hot. It was so hot. It was an uncomfortable trialing experience.
Your CEO didn't even have fun.
No one had fun.
No one had fun.
But looking back, it also didn't break her.
No, exactly.
Nothing that happened was a disaster.
Yeah.
And she found, I think, 8 out of the 10 hides.
Yeah.
So I think I call that an 80% success. So I think that she still, that was a great learning experience for both of us.
Yeah. That was probably the toughest Nosework 3 trial that there has been.
Yeah, it wasn't what I had hoped for.
No.
When I drove up to do that one, but it was good learning.
That wasn't what I'd hoped for either, and I was the CEO. Yeah, I definitely think that was the toughest environment. The hides were not that challenging. It was all the other things, the heat, the humidity, the exhaustion,
Yeah.
Such a big day that contributed to, I think there's 3 passes, but still I think it was that was a really tough trial.
It was.
And you get those. You don't want to be like that. Like
I agree. I kind of like that it's tough.
Yeah, it's good to have, you can't give them away.
As long I don't mind if it's tough as long as I'm not breaking my dog.
Exactly. And the Nosework 3 that we did down here and I got to run with Sarah.
Yep.
Man, we had the best day. We had such a fun day searching together. I was so happy. And she got a leg, that exceeded my expectations. And so, you've got to balance it out over time, I think.
Yep. Definitely.
But that's why you don't want to over trial, because experiences like that, you want to really sort of process and take the wins and the learning or the things that are out of your control and then
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, yeah, like I remember coming back from that Nosework 3 and I literally just was like, man, I just want another one. I just want another one so I can just,
yeah.
myself know that I can do it. But I actually think it's better to just take time out and just dwell on it and reflect and do more training and just,
Yeah.
build up the joy again.
The worst thing you can do is dive into the next one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why the
Um,
reflection is so good, right? That's why
yeah,
we
yes, exactly. I should briefly mention Bug, my sister's dog, who I helped train because his goals were to build confidence, have fun, and build strong foundations in searching.
Well, I think he's definitely done all of the above.
Yeah, he's tick 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 and all of that.
Yeah, I love watching the little guys, like Flair and Bugger siblings. I love watching them search. They are having so much fun.
Yep.
They just, there's so much joy in in how we've sort of trained them, and I think that's something I'm really happy with.
I know, like when I look at our training videos of those guys, like there's usually always laughter at some point in the video, which is
Yep.
just the best. That's what it should be about.
And for dogs that are so connected to their humans,
Yep.
like to an obscene
Yes.
level, they are still so independently searching.
Yes.
And that to me was something I was a bit worried about. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to have a Velcro dog that, and not worried about it, just crossed my mind that independence is something that for that breed of dog is really important.
Yep.
And I think they've both done really well.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty fun actually to reflect on where they go this year and
Yeah,
they
exactly. And just, for when I listen to this podcast next year, they're both on Birch.
Yes.
And they're doing a little class in January, and then they'll be going on to the other odors.
They're kind of half-assed on the other odors, to be honest.
Yeah, because we did put them on.
Well, they've had minimal exposure to the other odors, but
Yeah.
they've had intentional training on Birch.
Yeah. I think that's what's been really good with the little guys is that their training has been really intentional.
Yep.
And even for how long we waited to put them on odor was intentional. Like,
yep.
Which sometimes it doesn't happen like that, and you've got a camp coming up, or you've got this, that, and the other, or it's the only ORT for 6 months, or whatever the case may be. But I think just really taking our time with them and making sure that their heads are in the right space too before we throw them onto odor.
Yes. And I like to tell people the goal for them is not like pass an ORT or pass novice. The goal for them is like do elite, do summit, like
absolutely
build the skills needed for that level of searching.
Yeah, and that's what we're building in now. Summit's the goal. We don't even have summit in Australia yet, but that's what we're training them for.
It's coming.
Hopefully elite this year. Let's go, Becky.
Okay. Yeah, so I think overall my dogs exceeded their goals. Well, the goals I had for them. I mean, even Pippin, I said Pippin got kind of left out. He got 2 titles this year. Well, last year, which is amazing because we didn't even expect him to get titles, but he went out and did 2 trials and passed them. So
that's right. He did the interiors up at Tarawa.
Yep. And the containers.
Yeah. I think the trials have been really fun this year too, the ACSW ones.
Yep.
We've had some good element trials and some good venues, and I think 2025 is going to be next level for ACSW and K9O's time in New South Wales.
Yep.
And it looks like Queensland, they're doing really great things up there too. They're going to be having a bunch of trials in 2025.
Plus we have camp.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for camp, and I don't even get to run a dog.
Nope. Well, your dog gets run for you, but
yeah. Thanks. I'm really excited to be an instructor at camp. I think it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
We're just going to have such a great time. It's going to be good.
Okay, well, should we leave it at there for the reflection and save our proper goals for the next one?
Yes, let's save our goals for the next one. And I'm going to go right now and put up all the
Trial dates?
Yeah, thank you. The trial dates under trials and events on the Canine Nose Time website. So that's caninenosetime.com.au, and it'll be under trials and events. So there'll be all the dates, but they are tentative. Just keep that in mind. But you'll be able to have a bit of an idea of what we're trying to put on this year for trial wise.
And just remember, we aren't the only ones hosting. There are going to be other hosts. There are also some events already listed on the ACSW website.
Yes. Yeah. So check out the ACSW at acsw.com.au. And I will also try and put those on the Canine Nose Time website too, just so you can plan the calendar. And apart from that, bring on 2025.
Yes. It's going to be fun.